It's made me think proactively about how I'm going to engage students in conversation. I think I'm pretty good at limiting teacher talk and not oversimplifying everything, but I don't think I've been as intentional as I might have been otherwise on making sure that the students were contributing to the conversation and demonstrating their learning through conversation and through some kind of artifact that they're making. And so now I'm more intentional about that.
As a new teacher, I think having those clear, outlined ideas framed in a way that are useful for me. We've worked together in this way, and I think that's a great part of the QTEL program, is that there's collaboration, and so to work together to build quality interactions for those students. For myself, I don't always limit the teacher talk. I'm still practicing that. To have framework that allows those high expectations to be set forward for students, allows them to be successful. So I think it really has transformed my practice in instruction, and that it gives me the framework for them to have framework.
QTEL has had me spend more time in looking to make activities collaborative so that I can make students work together or have students work together, and that way they're able to help each other, and I'm taken out more as a facilitator in order to do that. I also like that QTEL prepares the learners for lessons so that they can do challenging activities and dive deeper into the literacy and the work.
For me, it's really provided a model of what student interaction could or should look like when talking about curriculum and setting up activities for curriculum. So I think for me, it's been more of a toolbox than
is just with the scaffolding of language pieces through interactive activities, such as like the turn and talk is something I use regularly in my classroom, and then just building on that so that students are able to then share what their partner has said without feeling as if it's wrong or there's any there's just not a lot of pressure, and so that's really helped students in my room who maybe don't normally talk as often.
I feel like QTEL has made me become much more aware of how often language is used in my classroom, and it's made me want to make sure that those moments where kids are speaking are quality, like they're having conversations that are meaningful and they're getting learning out of those conversations.
I think that the main way that QTEL has impacted my lessons is thinking about the 3 moments of the lesson and applying that to a variety of areas, whether it's a text that we're working with or something like a concept in math. Another way that it's impacted my instruction is leading me to that continued shift away from explicit grammar and vocabulary instruction to more holistic language practice.
And as an ESL teacher, what I observe is that students, my ELD students, are talking with the mainstream students and are completely part of the conversation, so that I'm feeling like this is not a separate population at all, and they're learning a lot of valuable vocabulary and interacting in a very reasonable way.
So I have a specific student that I think about with this one, who, before we got the training and before we started using QTEL techniques within our teaching, barely talked. A sentence frame would get him to talk some, but it was a struggle. And we started doing QTEL, and he is so excited to talk now. He is vibrant in his language. And even today, it wasn't QTEL, but he came running up to me after push block with Mr. K and said, "Miss Whitehant, we learned so much today." And it just made my heart shine.
It goes back to the high expectations for students, the focus on language and the focus on whole language, students actually using their skills and identifying their skills through language. It really puts that emphasis on just having an answer is not enough, just coming up with an answer is not enough, but sharing it whole language, understanding why that is correct, understanding how the process of teamwork got to to say the correct response or the correct answer, really instills the learning into the student much more than just running through the usual routines of, say, a standard lesson.
I definitely have more of a talk focus in my classroom. We are spending more time talking to each other with intention as opposed to turn and talk about something. Now we're turning and talking with a purpose, and my students are much more engaged in the conversations that they're having with their peers.
So I think this increases the engagement level. And what I especially like about it is it's not just about, I like the sentence frames, I like having kids have a safety net, so to speak, or structure for responding, but what I really like is some of the stuff that's less structured. So for instance, looking at a picture or a headline, and what could this be? How could this relate to plants? I guess the thing that I really like about it is it's not always, I mean, it is about content, but not necessarily a right answer.
Sure, and it's about the interaction too.
Right.
So students are given the tools that they need to feel included, and I think that's a piece that's very important. The students have something to, whether it's a support, whether it's a framework for them, a sentence stem or framework, it gives them an in. And so they're able to engage, they're able to have that interaction with students that really makes the learning fun. So whether or not they've had an experience before that they've felt so included, with the QTEL framework and the 3 moments, I feel like that's helped me ensure that they're interacting with the text or with the material and with the neighbors, a very social, constructivist approach into the learning day.
I feel like it's impacted my instruction because I've been really using this to develop all types of lessons, not just QTEL, but CBELD as well. So it's making me more mindful when I'm creating any type of lesson.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. The power of the formulaic expressions and kind of adopting those to other strands is definitely evident in the rest of my instruction.
I have a student who is new to the country this year, and it's been pretty incredible to watch him throughout the QTEL experience. We've been doing persuasive writing, and one of the things that he doesn't like to share out loud, but when he's sharing with a partner, like the pair share, or any other partner exercises, he does a really good job at sharing, and you can see him using verbal language.
Well, one student in particular that I can think of throughout the year has spoken very little in the class. Often it's just one-word answers or will not respond at all. But through the tasks that the students have been doing to kind of prepare them, she's just built a lot of confidence. And we recently did an opinion piece, and with the Think, Pair, Share, that just helped her come up with her ideas. And then there was a 4 corners activity, and with that she was really confident in writing and with sharing out with the whole group.
One is that they're in the classroom the entire time now, and they're not being pulled out this year in small groups for individual instruction. So the QTEL gives them a kind of scaffolding to work with the mainstream classroom students, be part of the activity, and still be able to parse out their understanding of what's going on. So that's very important.
Sure. It's made learning more accessible for English language learners because they're having that preparing task at the beginning before the main literacy activity, and then they're working together with their classmates to come up with answers together. So it's definitely helped make the learning more accessible for them.
I definitely noticed that my ELLs are more comfortable speaking in front of their peers now. They're willing to participate in classroom conversations without a worry about what they're going to say, and they want to talk. My students want to do activities where they get to interact with each other. Whereas in the past, I've definitely had some hangers behind who were happy to let other people do the talking. Now they're certainly more engaged.
I agree too with the inclusion part, and then also the sentence starters or sentence frames. It was really a good scaffold for our ESL students because they had something to say that clued them in right away. They didn't have to guess where to jump in. So I think that was a big plus.
I've got 2 examples. One is from an emergent bilingual. The other is not, but it's a student that I think has really benefited from QTEL as well. So I think it's important to highlight. One was during a vocabulary jigsaw, so after the learning extension activity, and it was a group of 3 that was working together, 2 emergent bilinguals and a native English speaker. And 2 of the 3 are strong math students at grade level, and 1 of the 3 is a dual identified special education and ESL student who really struggles in math. But she had her entry point and she was participating, and then we came to a word where the 2 students that were at grade level in math were stumped. And the student who really struggles in math took time to think and came up with the correct answer. And she was really proud of herself, and her classmates were just impressed. And it was fun to see. The other one, the student who is not an emergent bilingual, but I think really benefited from it too, was also just a struggling math student. And we've been working on fractions, story problems a lot lately. And he really couldn't even wrap his head around fractions at the beginning of this unit. And yesterday I had him in my room for a little extra time, and so I gave him a similar problem on a sticky note. He solved it completely quickly, and then was able to explain his thinking and how he solved it to another classmate who was still stuck. So that was really cool to see.
We did a unit on desert people, and it was designed with 3 moments from the get-go, and through that, just the use of the language of the text. It was a Raz Kids text that we were using, and students first processed a lot of the material and background content. So a lot of people have families in this community from Mexico, so there was a lot of imagery that was shown that came through that we were excited to share. Once we developed a lot of vocabulary, students had new language to apply to what they were trying to express. And I felt like that really was a good academic in for students, that they had a lot of background knowledge but might not know how to present that. Mm-hmm. And once we did a vocab presentation, students made posters. They were so excited to share. They had drawn pictures oftentimes of deserts and things that they had seen before. And that was just, I guess that's one example of the vocabulary piece of that text. But then it continued into the poster work. We did gallery walks, a lot of presentations, and students were thrilled the entire time. Some even saying this is the most fun we've had all year.
Wow.
Once we did the 3 cycles, rather than use the 3 moments. So that was a memorable unit.
Where I would like to see more support is just with the planning and ensuring that there's time for all of the teachers in the building who have been QTEL trained to have time to meet and kind of share what's working, what isn't working, and doing that alongside our admin would be really helpful.
So it's been lovely having people assigned to the building to help us with this work, because that keeps us on target. You know, you get better at what you pay attention to. And so we're paying more attention to QTEL right now, and so we're getting better at that. I guess what we might need is more materials. So for instance, one class has a bunch of iPads, and I personally don't have any. I'm not sure I need to go there right now. I feel like I'm adequately meeting the needs of my students, but I don't know what I don't have, right? I don't know what I don't know. The other thing is, a lot of what we've been doing is time intensive. Not a lot of it, but it is time intensive. Anytime you do something for the first time, it's going to take more time. Just like if you were doing the math curriculum for the first year, it's easier the second year. But the benefit of being a more seasoned teacher is that I can usually cut to the chase a little quicker. I can see what's the important element here and how to do it. So for instance, last week we were doing this close activity on books, and it was taking a long time to get through the books and mask all these words. And really what we decided after that is, like, we could just photocopy 1 page that has the words masked, flip it over, and 2 more pages on the back. And so that was 4 pages of text. Everybody's getting 1 whole section of the book. And it was very engaging for kids and very minimal work for me. So I think that's the benefit of being on a team, and figuring that stuff out together.
Yeah, similar to what Malia just said, I would love to have a chance to sit down with other QTEL teachers, either here at King or from other schools, to share lesson plans and talk about what we've done in our lesson cycles.
I think one of the things that, as a team, we're all working on is being intentional with the standards that we're addressing in our work together. We're certainly, we're attempting to embed language and to embed our ELP standards, but we're not yet doing a fantastic job at that. I think we could do a better job at having a more intentional language focus what we're doing.
I would love some more collaboration time with teachers so that we can talk with other teachers and get ideas about how they're working on implementing QTEL for lessons. I would also like to see some more examples of lessons done with early elementary students. I know in our training we got lots of really great examples for upper elementary, middle school, and high school, but it'd be nice to see some for those early elementary.
I would like to see the continued opportunities for planning throughout even our next year for all the QTEL teachers with the TOSAs. And I agree with Sylvia, I'd also really like to see some examples of early elementary QTEL planners.
Whole piece.
I think having sort of a farther perspective, so being able to develop units that lead into units, or even just a unit, a whole unit, because we really have been doing it piecemeal this year, and trying to plan out, several weeks at a time, but 3 weeks or 4 weeks is still only 3 weeks or 4 weeks, and we don't necessarily have, what are we doing after those 4 weeks? How is what we're doing here building into that next piece? And I do think having that time in the summer, or just having that perspective and being able to look really long term when we planned, would make a big difference. And I think help us choose strategies that would be more appropriate. There was also, but that's sort of the nature of it, that it was going to be trial and error this year.
I'm a very visual person, and what might assist me is either time spent in the workshops to create visual posters for my classroom in a way that would remind me and serve the students to be able to reference what are some of these moments and how do they play. There's a lot that happens that's a new training for QTEL, and there's a lot of exciting things. Perhaps there are some things that people have seen before. But for a newer teacher like myself, I'm really interested in learning how to do it perhaps the first time, the second time. And I think visuals for me would help. So either they could be pre-made, or it'd be great if we as a team could make some posters that work for ourselves and to be hung, so that way students and myself could be more ready to continue quickly with the work. Sure. Again, as a new teacher, any opportunity to collaborate with my colleagues and TOSAs outside of the building and inside the building has been phenomenally helpful for me. A lot of intentional research has gone into the QTEL method, and that has given me a lot of knowledge base to use in my classroom, as well as hear the knowledge base of other teachers, my colleagues in the building, and how they might tweak and play with certain elements to really make sure that it's effective for their students, which helps me see how to differentiate from my own in new ways. So, the collaborative aspect of the QTEL this year has just been, despite seeing student engagement increase and student enjoyment and learning, measurable learning, really collaboration.
That's right. Something that's been really beneficial about this particular PD is just having the time to be a participant, and the facilitators modeling as if they are the actual teacher, so then being able to kind of take that back into my classroom and having that experience as the learner has been really helpful. One thing that I also liked was that it was a 2-day training, and so just being able to kind of think about what I learned the day prior and then come back with questions the second day, so that was really helpful.
At least that the support after the fact is definitely different than the other professional development I've received, especially the really direct support, like to have planning time designed to implement what we learned. It makes it feel, it gives it a lot more weight, and I think gives it a greater degree of importance. It has a feeling of being more pursued by the district, that these goals are more important than other trainings I've received.
The benefit of QTEL, the way it's been delivered, is that you're sitting down doing coursework for a couple days, so you're learning the big picture, and then you're having to take it back to your school and practice it. So it's not sort of picking and choosing. It's like there is a structure, and if you hadn't had the classwork, you wouldn't know what the overstructure was. On the other hand, if you didn't have the support at school, you wouldn't be as likely to do it.
Yeah.
So everybody knows if you go do PD by yourself, you come back to school, you're all excited about it, but then you have no way to continue the conversation because your other friends didn't take it. So this is really supportive, and it helps put things in context, and puts old learning into a new context, which is always helpful for seasoned teachers.
Classroom. I also really appreciate the coaching support that we've been given, because I feel like as teachers we've got 50 gazillion things on our mind, and to have somebody who is just specifically trying to help us out with making this successful is really fantastic, and I'm grateful for that support.
Everyone, I really liked the way that the facilitator set up the activities, and it was really neat to see activities that I hadn't done in the past before, and thinking about how we could adapt them for our lower elementary students.
I like that this isn't a packaged curriculum. I like that it's more of a philosophy that we can embed into our curriculum in a way to better teach. I also like that we got to be participants within the activity. I felt like that was really helpful, so I could really visualize what that should look like when I go in and teach with QTEL.
I really liked that it was collaborative with ESL teachers and classroom teachers there as well, so that we can get the training together and think together about how we're serving our students.